Okay, so in this video, I'm going to be reviewing with you levels 1 and 2 for your assessment coming up this Wednesday. So for levels 1 and 2, you need to be able to simplify algebraic expressions by either combining like terms, which is basically adding or subtracting, using the operations adding or subtracting, or the distributive property, which uses the operation multiplication. Okay, so examples 1 and 2, you cannot see any parentheses. So you are going to combine like terms. Example number 3, you can see parentheses. So in order to simplify number 3, we are going to use the distributive property. So let's look at number 1 first. So number 1, we are going to need to combine like terms. And remember, like terms are either variables with the same variable raised to the same exponent or constants. And remember, you cannot combine constants with variables. So here we have 8x squared, which means I'm going to look for any other terms that have the x squared. And I have one right here, 9x squared. It doesn't matter that one coefficient is 8 and one coefficient is 9. All that needs to match is the x squared. Here I have a negative 7x, and I don't have any other terms that have the variable x. But I do have a negative 4 and a negative 2, which are constants. So I'm going to combine my like terms now that I have identified what it is that I can combine together. So the 8x squared and the positive 9x squared can be combined together. And I do that by adding the 8 and 9 together. Keep in mind, they're both positive numbers, which means I'm going to add them and keep the sign. So I get 17x squared. Then I'm going to write out my other variable. I am going to keep the habit going of writing your variables first and then your constant at the end. So I can't combine this negative 7x with anything, so I'm just going to carry it down. And lastly, I'm going to combine my negative 4 and my negative 2, my two constants. And in doing that, I pay attention to the fact that they're the same sign, which means I'm going to add them and keep the sign. So that's negative 6. That's the term I get from combining my two constants. So I started with 5 terms, and I was able to combine 4 of them together, and I end up with 3 terms at the end. 7x squared minus 7x minus 6. In my second example, my first term is 12, a constant, and there aren't any more constants. So I'm not going to be able to combine that with anything, but I'm going to see if I can combine any of my variables together. So when you look at plus 3a, you can see that there's a negative 10a. They're both the variable a raised to the same exponent. I'm not concerned that one has a 3 as a coefficient and a negative 10 as a coefficient. That doesn't matter. All that matters is that the variable matches. Then I have a positive 12ab and a negative ab. Again, the variables match, so I will be able to combine the coefficients. So let's start with our variables. I'm going to combine positive 3a and negative 10a. I do that by combining the coefficients. So the positive 3 and the negative 10. One is a positive, one is a negative. So I just know that I have to subtract and keep the sign of the larger number. So I'm going to take 10 minus 3. I get 7. I'm going to keep the sign of the larger number, and I have negative 7a. Next, I'm going to combine my positive 12ab And remember, if you don't see a number, there's a 1. And my negative 1AB. And I do that by combining the coefficients of 12 and negative 1. And I get positive 11AB. Now, my constant, the 12, I don't have anything to combine it with. So I am just going to carry it down. And I have to remember that my terms need to be separated with plus or minuses. So I'm going to remember to write the plus 12. Now I just took 5 terms and I simplified by combining like terms, and I have 3 terms in my answer. Okay. Lastly, the number 3 example, you can clearly see that there's parentheses. So right away I know I'm going to use distributive property to get rid of the parentheses. And I do that by multiplying this outer term by all the terms on the inside of the parentheses. So I'm going to multiply here, and multiply here. Okay, and I'm going to pay very close attention to whether I'm multiplying positive or negative numbers. So I'm going to multiply 4 times 2a. So 4 times 2 is 8. I get 8a. I'm going to multiply 4 times b. Remember, there is a 1 there. So 4 times 1, positive 4 times positive 1 stays positive. There's my variable, 4b. Then I'm going to multiply 4 times negative 3. Negative 3. So I'm multiplying a positive times a negative. So I know I'm going to end up with a negative 12c. Now when you look at it, we end up with an 8a, a 4b, and a negative 12c. There's nothing more for me to combine together. When you're doing level 1 and 2, you're going to do either combined like terms or distributive property.